Are you feeling overwhelmed and maybe anxious? Do you ever feel uncertain and struggling to regain control? If that is you, you are going to absolutely love our topic tonight. My name is Suzanne Hart, and our topic tonight is why the trunk of your car might be revealing your emotional state. Interesting topic. Welcome to Unstoppable Mindset. This conversation is for you if you are sometimes feel overwhelmed and you want to have a quick way to know when you're going into overwhelm and how to reset. This is for you if you have a desire to increase your emotional mastery. As we get started, do the usual. Please let us know who you are, where you're joining us from, and what inspired you to come on out tonight? I see Virginia Dawson is already on. Hey, Virginia, how are you? While you're getting on, let us know what you do and who you're called to serve. Who are you called to inspire? Put in the comment section any questions you have, or what about this topic had you go, I need to show up for sure. Also, please go ahead and bless a life. What do I mean by that? Share it to your page, share it to a group you belong to, share it to a community you belong to, share it with a friend, because this is the way we create engagement and we spread the love of valuable information. If you're listening to the replay, hashtag replay, thank you so much for joining us. Now, I know it's the replay, but I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. Go ahead, put in the comment section who you are, where you're joining us from, what you do while you're living, and who you are called to serve. Who are you meant to touch, move, and inspire? Also, as you're listening, let us know what you're taking away. Put some comments in the comment section. Now, people might be asking, we are on social media, we're listening to a live. Why are we putting all this information in the comment section? This is your virtual networking opportunity. This is your opportunity to connect with new people, let them know who you are, what you do, because you never know who might be watching, who might be strolling through the comment sections and roll upon your information and say, I need to reach out to this person. To go ahead, network, take advantage of the opportunity. Now, today's topic I'm really excited for. We are starting our a series on emotional mastery, and that is really how do we manage our emotional state. As we do so, I have a very, very special guest that I am so excited to introduce. So let us get this party started. As I said, my name is Suzanne Hart. Welcome to Unstoppable Mindset. And our topic today is a curious fact: why the trunk of your car reveals your emotional state. Now, this conversation is going to really excite you if you are someone that might be feeling overwhelmed, having anxious and having a hard time managing your state, and you're looking for tips and ways to know when you're spiraling possibly out of control and what to do to manage your emotional state. This conversation is for you if you want to take your emotional mastery to a brand new level. So let me introduce my guest. Now, this gentleman I had the privilege of meeting through a community that we both belong to. Have you ever met someone that the moment you meet them and you connect, you know that there's something interesting and magical about this person? You have an instant connection and you know that wherever the energy is going to go, it's going to be an inspiring and delightful ride. What I love about this gentleman is his authenticity, his willingness to put himself into the marketplace and touch, move, and inspire the unique people that he is called to serve, his divine client. I am excited to sit down and talk to him about emotional mastery. Why? Because he's just honest and authentic and willing to put himself out there. So please help me welcome the engagement and impact strategist, Mr. Matt Gill.
Hello, hello, hello.
How
So
are you, hon?
I am doing wonderful. It is so good to be here. Thank you for allowing me to just share this space with you and to share this very sacred time with you. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. You know, I always reflect back on when we first met, that first Synergy Street Team meeting, and it was instant. You know, when you meet someone and it clicks, and
Yes.
you know, oh my goodness, There's going to be, it's going to be this energy is going to be magical.
Yes, there's a
Yeah,
divine connection. There's a divine
absolutely.
connection.
Absolutely.
Like,
So before we jump in, can you share a little bit with the audience about what you do while you're living and what you're passionate about?
yes, for sure. So, I love how I get to serve and how I get to show up in the world. I get to empower people to own their story, use their voice, and create an impact in the world. And why I love that I get to be a part of their story is, for a long time, I withheld my own story.
Mm,
I lived in a lot of shame and guilt and frustration for some of the chaos, some of the decisions that I had made, some of the relationships that I allowed myself to stay in for too long or even get in,
yeah.
for some of the dreams that I had put on the back burner for so long. I felt ashamed of teaching people how to reach out for their dreams when I wasn't following my own dreams. I was building other people's dreams while my dreams kind of sat in the back.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they were in the trunk with the mess of all the other stuff. And it wasn't until I began the journey of one, healing and forgiving myself and having uncomfortable conversations with some of the people that um, sometimes were the closest people in my life, that I needed to put healthy boundaries around and allow my own voice to get louder, allow myself to
Mm,
step into my own light, to take center stage, to take the moment and say, this is me, this is who I am. Um, I didn't come out publicly until I was 40 years old, or actually 43 years old.
wow.
And because of just I was trying to manage other people's insecurities for so long, and I had to get to a place of allowing myself to be seen for all of me,
Mm.
unconditionally, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then once I was able to do that, I was able to show other people, listen, if I can do it, you can as well. And the beautiful thing is, I've had the pleasure and the honor of impacting, traveling the world, working with some of the most amazing, influential people that are out there that are helping other
Yeah.
people. I've stepped on over 300 stages worldwide. I've been impacted over 40 million people, working with various organizations and through the company. And yet I was still hiding. I was hiding in plain sight. And so my mission is to put a spotlight on the stories that haven't been told and the people that are waiting to tell their stories.
I love it. And all the people that are also hiding in plain sight.
Yes.
I so relate. And, we both are storytellers. We both love the power of story. And as you're talking, Matt, I can so relate because I remember when I was hiding in plain sight and aching to be seen
Yes.
and
Yes.
wondering why no one was giving me the attention I deserved when it was me that was actually pushing people away because I didn't want people to see all of me.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
And so I so get it. And I love today's topic, when people think of the trunk of their car, they're probably going, "What does that have to do with my emotional state?"
Hmm.
And I just want to situate everyone and just tell a quick story. When I first got into network marketing, I hired a coach, and one of the things that he said was that when he looked at how someone kept their car and he opened the trunk, he can tell so much about their success, so
Hmm.
much about their habits, but more importantly, he could tell about their emotional state. And that struck me, like, what was it about the trunk? And he said, if the trunk of the car was organized and clean, and the
Hmm.
car was clean, this was someone who had a higher level of mastery than most in terms of their emotional state. If the trunk was chaotic and the car was chaotic, he said it was someone who had less emotional mastery. And
Hmm.
so what I want to dive into is how our environment reflects our internal state. So for you, do you find that for yourself that your environment is a reflection of your emotional state?
Yes. As a matter of fact, it's actually one of my measurements now, as to where am I? Why am I feeling this way? There's I tend to go through cycles.
Mm,
And as I'm about ready to make big expansions, I collapse a little bit, and then I expand big, and then I collapse a little bit, and so I feel this swell, and I can always tell where I'm at based on how my environment looks. I don't like driving, so I have a car that sits out there, so my trunk is really clean. But if you look at my house and where I am even at this moment, it's very chaotic for me. It's not in the order that I want it. I'm in a season of transition,
mm,
a beautiful season of transition where I'm about ready to make a really big move. I'm moving from California, which is where I'm born and raised in California, and I'm moving to Arizona, and this has required me to go through boxes and to purge. And so I have little piles of things. This is going to Goodwill, this is going to give to some people that I know that need these things,
mm.
or these are the things that I just need to just throw away. And so I have these little, and every time I walk into my living room and I see some of this, I feel my energy shift. What I realized, and I've learned this a few years back in my personal growth journey, is that how important your environment is, because everything is pulling on your energy. It's the tolerations, it's the things that we tolerate in our life. It could be as simple as a sink that we
Yes.
allow to drip. It could be as far as the relationships that we have and the people that we allow and we tolerate to be in our lives, because, oh, we've been friends for 20 years now, but yet it's been a toxic relationship, but yet we still tolerate it. So for me, my environment is kind of my measure. It's my marker. Where am I? And
Oh,
there are times that I see it get chaotic and I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on?
mhm. I know, I so agree, and I know for myself, that if I look around, one of the places is my office,
Mm,
and if I look around and there's piles and my office is a little chaotic, I usually have to stop and go, "What's going on?
right.
What exactly is going on?" And I've learned that my external state is often a reflection of my internal state.
Hmm.
And so what I tend to do is to stop, and people might think this is really odd, but stop whatever I'm doing and I clean. I clean
Hmm.
and reorganize my office. And do you notice that I know for myself, as I'm cleaning and I'm putting things in places and spaces that they need to be, I actually feel my overwhelm and angst and anxiety begin to dissipate. And it's almost like I'm doing an external cleaning, but it's creating this internal purging and putting energy back in the places and spaces it needs to be.
For sure. It's like, if you think about our minds as almost this like mental file cabinet of everything has its own place. And when everything's discombobulated and you go to find an emotion or a thought or something, your mind is like, ah, and so it's digging through all these piles and trying to find all of this stuff. So the cleaning and the organizing, even though it's a physical thing that you're doing, it's actually mentally putting in the things back into their place so that you can find them, and creating an ease. I love a clean space. My space,
Mhm.
I'll be in full transparency, is not always clean because I always have a lot of things that are going up here. And so it really does become my, I need to clean the kitchen. Let me just take this portion of it and let me clean this spot here, which then allows for me to create the space for something new. It's like if I had a bunch of pillows and I'm holding a bunch of pillows in here and I want something new, my hands aren't capable of carrying
Mhm.
anything new because they're full of all of the junk, all of the past stories, the guilt, the shame, the chaos, the hurt, the frustrations, the
Yeah,
conversations that you haven't had, all of the things, that the negative chatter, all of that stuff we carry with us. And until we begin to deal with it and put it in its place, or look at it and say, thank you, I receive you, I release you, we can't accept something new. And that's where our frustration comes in.
absolutely. And there's this thing that two things can't occupy the same space.
Yes.
And so I know, when I was in network marketing, and someone would be stuck in their build, I'd say to them, go clean a cupboard, a closet in your house. And they'd be like,
Mhm.
what? And I go clean a closet. They'll
Right.
clean out a junk drawer. And just that act of purging stuff, and I'd say, watch what happens as you release stuff that you no longer need. And they'd
Right.
come back and go, I don't know what happened, but things are moving again. And I'd be like,
Uh,
interesting.
right.
And it's we have this tendency to hold on. And it's almost like hold on to what you've received,
Hmm.
whether you still need it or not. And then while we're holding on and cluttering up our space with what we've received, we're wanting more, but not realizing there's no place for more to flow to. And so I always remind myself it's like this flowing of energy. Things need to have a space to flow into, and things need to have a place to flow out. And everything in our life has a time, a reason, and a season.
Right.
And that's the order of things. And our job is to really kind of just keep that flowing. Let me ask you this question, and before I do, I just want to welcome everybody. I see Virginia is out there. Oh, you got fans tonight, Matt. I see Mr. Ken Decker, I see Yetta Decker, I see Virginia. Hello to Ria. There's someone who's coming up as Facebook read user, and they wrote external state is a reflection of my internal state.
Hmm.
Not quite sure who you are, but welcome and thank you for joining us. So one of the things I want to ask you, I know for myself that, and I want to highlight this because emotions is energy, and we are required, I believe, to learn to manage and guard our energy.
Hmm.
I want to talk about guarding energy for a moment, and then we're going to talk a little bit about managing energy. So I know that when I go to somewhere that there's a lot of chaos, a lot of clutter, a lot of disorganization, I it instantly puts me into not a high overwhelm, but this almost like this little bit of stuff running in the background.
Hmm.
And I will leave that place agitated, not rested, and a little frazzled. And what I've come to realize is that my environment was not relaxed. Now,
Hmm.
I want to make a distinction for people, because I can be in a productive, flowing environment that's moving at a high speed and be totally fine, because there's order and reason and season to that. You put me in a cluttered, disorganized, chaotic environment, and it begins to pull on my energy.
Hmm.
What's that like for you?
I'm certainly the same. I am definitely there. What I've realized is one of the things that I am aware of and I take responsibility for is that I set the temperature for the room that I step into.
Ooh,
Um,
tough. I like that. Someone put that in the comment section. I set
mhm.
the temperature of the room that I move into. I love
Yeah.
it.
And there are times that things are chaotic and I have to do what I can. And obviously there are times that you can't control an entire room, but
Mhm,
there are ways that you can manage your own emotions as to
mhm.
what's coming in. Okay, Matt,
Right.
I see that I can't change this right now. There's nothing that you can do, but let me just put myself at ease. Let me take myself to a space of what do I need to do to reground myself, to refocus myself. I tend to, as an empath, I take on everybody else's stuff. And so when there's a lot of chaos with other people,
Mhm.
I tend to carry that as well. And so I have to remind myself, listen, it's out of your control and not your responsibility. Your job,
Absolutely.
your
Absolutely.
job, your job is here to clear my mind, prepare my heart, and use me as your vessel. That's my prayer that I say. I said it just before we started here when I was backstage. It grounds me and gets me present into the moment of I know that God put me in this place and in this moment for a reason, whether I understand what it is or what it's not. There's a purpose, and so I have to step outside of this mind,
Mhm.
which is where the chaos lives, which is where that energy lives, and go straight to the heart. And when I connect with the heart, it allows me to step outside of that environment that I can't control and be present with the moments that I can control.
Absolutely.
That
So
makes
well said.
sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I think the reason when I leave, I'm usually more tired is for that exact reason.
Mhm.
Because for me to exist in a chaotic state, and and just so everybody knows, I come from 20 years of crisis. So I'm
You
accustomed.
got some practice in that.
It's not practice, and I am the person that shows up with absolute calm
Mhm,
in crisis. And so that's probably why I was effective at it. And so and when you're in calm, it's almost like you put your you move, you put your emotional stuff here, you
mhm,
ground and center yourself, and you allow yourself to get this place where you are able to be used.
mhm,
What's important to know about that, and it took me a while in my career to understand this, is while you're doing those two pieces, because you're taking care of your own emotional state, plus you're being available to other people, plus you're managing what's coming at you from the environment, it takes a lot of energy.
mhm,
And so that's probably why when that's done, Yetta has a heavenly environment in your house and in your
mhm,
car is essential.
mhm,
And I think why this topic is so key is because almost everyone listening is an entrepreneur creating their own way in the world, in terms of ideas, thoughts, finances, all those things. And as a result of this, I tell people that entrepreneurship is crazy and chaotic and unpredictable and all those things. And that being said, we are required to create our own calm.
mhm,
We are required to create our own places where we get to have a energetic rest, if you will. And so what do you do to create that for yourself?
Mine is I have, as an external thing that I can do. I have people that I call, so they're kind of my rocks. They're my listen. I need to just vent for a moment, or I just need you to help me ground. Sometimes um, I get in my head of, am I doing enough? Am I
Mm,
being enough? Like if I don't see change right away, and so I have to call on people that are kind of like nah, I don't want to say they're my prayer warriors, but they're my come on, Matt. They remind me of who I am. And one of my friends just says, "Tell me what's true. What do you know about yourself that's true?" Hmm. I know I'm strong. I know I'm guided. I know I'm protected. I know, and I go down the list of all of the things that remind me and almost kind of ground myself as well. Um,
mhm.
and I allow myself to feel what I need to feel at the moment. Like, okay, great. Why am I feeling this?
Yeah.
I almost look at those moments as puzzle pieces. I've always loved puzzles. I love the 5,000 piece puzzles because it almost seems impossible to put it together. And then when you're like at your last 50, you're like, oh my God, I'm almost done.
Look, it's all put together. I figured.
Right.
Yes, I
But
got
I
it.
I love finding the piece and saying, "Ah, this person was saying that because of this," or, "Ah, this person is doing this because of," and it's like this puzzle piece comes together, and you get to see a bigger picture. And one of the things that I realize in just business in general, and how my relationship with God works is He doesn't give me the whole picture, which is really frustrating. um, I have asked him, "Can you just give me a memo? Like, I'm gonna write a book called Memos from God because I just want him to give me the whole, like, give me the picture, show me the memo, tell me
See,
like what is it,
and you know why he doesn't do that, right?
because I'd mess it up."
Oh, well, first of all, we wouldn't move because 'cause we'd be like, "What?
Right.
No, you got the wrong person. That is
Exactly.
way too big." So he's like, "Honey, I'm just sending you the memo,
Right. I'm gonna
right?
give you this
Do
little
do
piece.
do this piece first."
Yeah. Julie Long says, "I want a neon sign." I love it. Hi, Julie. Like I want the roadmap, and I realized that if I knew the whole picture, I would talk myself out of it.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
would toss my go for it.
You know, as soon as you said that, what comes to mind for me is routines.
Mhm.
And so, you know, if you're just joining, we're talking about really just learning how our environment can impact our emotional state or how it's a reflection of our emotional state. And so one of the things that you just said really um, brought to mind for me the power of routines because I know that if left to my own devices, one is if God gave me the whole memo, the book at a time, I'd close it on page 10 and go, "Yeah, okay, no,
Right,
we not doing
right.
that. I'm gonna put that book back on the shelf because obviously I was not the person it was for." So so one is I get the snippets of what I need to do, the hows, right? The
Mhm.
next step. Even in that next step, it overwhelms me and it scares me. So one of the things I share often is I have routines that structure me. And people think I'm really structured by nature. No, I'm not. I'm kind of chaotic, impulsive, monkey brain, can't focus. That's why I have a lot of routines and rituals and routines. The power of those rituals and routines is if I surrender to them, it doesn't give me too much time to emotionally think
Mhm.
too much. Because I have learned that if I get caught in thinking way too much, I immobilize myself
Mhm.
and I get caught up in the emotion of what I'm required to do. I get caught up in the emotion of the moment. I'm tired, I'm frustrated, I don't wanna do this, I'm afraid,
Mhm.
or I don't know how. Those emotions in and of itself will immobilize me. However, if I have my day planned out and I can just surrender to the routine, I get up and really I get going before I actually have to think too much.
Right.
And so for me, you know, the routines are as much for the order of my environment, but it's very much so for the order of my internal environment as well. Because
Right.
if I don't have order for those places, chaos happens.
Yep. They're your guardrail. They're your bumper rails
Yes.
that keep you in line. And the beautiful thing about having those routines, because I have mine and I live off of my calendar. One of my coaches, previous coaches, had taught me that if it's not in your calendar, it doesn't get done. And
Yep.
I fought the calendar so hard. I was like, no, this thing's, I don't want to use this tool. I don't want to, like, it's ridiculous. How are you going to have me schedule out what time I'm going to eat, what time I'm going to, and I realized that now that if I don't put stuff into my calendar, the projects or time for the projects or even time rest time, like time for me to just take a break,
Mm,
and it doesn't happen. Even as simple as eating. Like I'm a big foodie, but when I get into a work mode, I'm in this hustle and I forget that, oh, I need
yeah.
to nourish my body. And then I'm wondering, why am I on this call and I'm getting cranky, or why am I feeling lightheaded? And oh, it's 4 o'clock and I haven't eaten anything since this morning. Or like, so the routines and the practice keep me in alignment and keep me moving forward. What I love, I'm a checklist person. I love
Mhm.
checklists, because one, I like being able to check something off and being
Yeah.
like, whew, I did something.
Yeah.
And it also becomes the thing that I get to when I get stuck. I have something to go to. I have my book and I'm like, okay, great. This is what I'm going to do right now.
Yeah.
It becomes my go-to. And so the routines are a life skill that, I can tell you I was very resistant to, because I want my freedom. Like all of us as entrepreneurs, we're like, we want to be able to create and to do the things that we want to do. Um, but the routines keep me in movement, in forward movement.
I love it. I love it. You know, one of the things, let's talk about freedom for a moment
Hmm.
because oftentimes when people become entrepreneurs, they go, "Ooh, I can do things on my own time. I'm free. I can do what I want when I want." Isn't that what everybody says?
Right.
I'm an entrepreneur. I can do what I want when I
When I
want.
want it. and with
Not
who
so
I
much.
want to do it, right?
Not so much. I'm here to tell you that is a recipe for disaster and not getting much done and
Right.
not making a lot of money. That really is.
Right. You get to the end of the month, you're like, wait a minute, I had a whole 30 days. Where did it go?
You're right, absolutely. And so I have this thing called structure creates freedom. Structure creates emotional freedom. Structure just creates time freedom. And part of it is that the structure that we have actually contains us
Mm,
so that we can be free. And really what it is really learning to pull things into our lives in an organized way, because that's really all a schedule does, is have you, I like to say, it has you say how much by when,
hmm
right? How much do I need to do and when do I need to do it? How long am I going to stay on this task? And and it is that organization so that you don't actually have the cluttered trunk in your mind.
Right.
Is that when we create this structure, all we're doing is taking all the pieces that need to be done and organizing them like the puzzle pieces, which goes first, what's the edge, what's the inner part, when do I have to do each? And it creates that organization so that our mind is not cluttered. It is the exact same thing. So I see when does the stage kick in? When does that stage kick in? Julie's
hmm
at Julie's asking. So, Julie, can you just clarify your question a little bit more so that we can ensure that we're answering it properly? So, you know, what let me just I want to really get clear on my question. When you are in chaos for yourself, what is the internal clue? Because we've been talking about external clues.
hmm
What is the internal clue for you?
So for me, I shut down. When I feel myself pulling away from, I don't want to talk right now, and I don't want to post on social media. I don't want to have a conversation, or I find myself closing in on myself. That's usually when I have to kind of take a temperature and say what's going on. That's actually been something that I recently, as of this week, have had to have a moment of like, what's going on. I just posted on my social media platforms that made a joke out of it, but I said it's official. I'm menstruating, which is the male, which is the male version of PMS. Like, I am going from I'm happy, I'm energetic, to I want to punch somebody in the face, to I need to take a nap, to I'm hungry, and I go to my refrigerator and all I have in there is vegetables, and I'm like, why the heck do I not have ice cream right now? Like, it was, and to me that was where I needed to just take a moment and say, okay, let me see what's going on. Like, where am I right now? Why am I feeling this way? And I began to look around in my space, and I'm like, huh, my space is not organized. There are some decisions that haven't been made. There is
Mm,
some information that is lacking. I'm lacking clarity in a couple different areas that I need answers on. um, there's a conversation that I need to have that is very uncomfortable with somebody that I love, that I'm procrastinating on. I'm saying, okay, I'll wait for the right moment. That's the right moment is never going to happen. And so I began, for me it was like, I see that I'm not my happy go lucky self, as I'm a lot of energy. um I've once been explained as a party in a bow tie, because I used to wear a lot of bow ties when we were doing live events all the time. Like, bow ties are one of my favorites, and um, I know that I project a lot of energy, and how I show up on camera, and in coaching calls, and when I do keynotes. There's a lot of energy that I give out, and I'm that way when I'm at home as well. But when I realize that I don't have that same momentum and that same zest, I'm like, wait a
mm.
minute, something's going on. I find myself wanting to take a nap a lot. Um, I find myself at least just laying down and um, almost detaching in a self,
Yeah.
so that I can kind of allow myself to look at myself from the outside in.
Great answer. And
How about
as
for
I
you?
well, you brought up because the kids, I go two extremes.
Mhm.
And so one is I shut down
Mhm.
and I go silent. And for me, I need to think and I need to organize my thoughts. And usually my clue is, I don't know about you, but I have a lot of incompletes.
Mm, mhm.
And it's when I have incompletes, unfinished conversations, when I'm avoiding things, and it's almost like they start to pile up.
Mhm.
And what happens, which is really interesting, because when I was listening to you, I was like, "Oh, this is so good." So when I'm awake, Matt, I am flat. I'm in avoidance. I don't want to do anything. However, when I go to sleep, it all runs.
Mhm.
And I'm not sleeping because I'm being woke up. Tria called it the 3 a.m. problem. I'm
Mm.
being woken up by the clutter in my mind of all the incomplete, all the things that I'm avoiding, all the different things. And I can actually and I can experience my out of alignment
Right.
because in the day, I'm so overwhelmed that I want to shut down and withdraw. But at night, everything that I've withdrawn from is running
Mhm.
and driving me nuts.
Right.
And and it reminds me as you were talking, I don't know if anybody has a junk drawer. I don't have them anymore. So you open the drawer and you're trying to look for something, but there's just so much in there and you're tossing around and you can't find it. Then you close it back because it's overwhelming.
Right.
That's kind of how I'm feeling. So my awake self just wants to avoid it, and my sleeping self can't avoid it. And
Mhm.
so it's just this I'm like two people, and it's craziness.
Right.
And then I'll start to see it in my environment because my awake self is avoiding and now things aren't getting done.
Mhm.
And so what I have learned is that the clue for me is the minute I have too many things, as soon as I start seeing things not done, I'm a checklist person too. Or if I find myself avoiding something, I know that if I don't get it done, if I don't step to it,
Mhm.
I'm gonna get to that place. That's my clue.
Right. And what's so funny is that that junk drawer that we throw things in, we forget about it, and then when we finally take the time to go through it, we realize like, wait, why did I keep this? Like I didn't even need this here. Like I can like there's so much that we hold on to that we're like, wait a minute, I this no longer serves me, or why did like this didn't never serve me in the first place. So why did I hold
Oh,
it here? Or why didn't I take care of that right away?
or why have I been avoiding this conversation for so long that it's piled up to this massive thing when it was just this little thing? I love
Yeah.
So Julie's asking, what she said is, I meant, when does the stage where the effortless freedom of entrepreneur kicks in? That is that is
Right.
such a myth of entrepreneurs that we have so much freedom. That is a great question, Julie. So I'm gonna let you answer, and then I'll take my crack at it.
Yeah. So I think you have to determine, what does freedom mean to you? That's one of
Mhm.
the things. So when in the myth of entrepreneurship, oh yeah, I can go on a vacation whenever I want. I can just take the time. Like, oh, I'm gonna do like. To me, freedom is being able to control my calendar. Freedom is being able to have experiences with the people that I want when I want to do that. Um, Freedom is the opportunity to sit back and dream and be like, huh, and create and map out. Um, like to me, that's all part of freedom. Freedom also lies within me being able to go through and say, you know what, this is the Saturday that I'm going to do nothing. I'm
Mhm.
going to lay in bed all day long and do nothing. Like, um, so I would say determine, what does freedom mean to you? Like what
Yeah.
um Freedom to have a menstruating day. Exactly. Like exactly. And that is so true. Like yesterday, when I realized that this is the way that I was like, I can't do anymore. I'm going to do the calls that I have that are on my calendar. I need to honor and I need to show up 100%. But when I'm not on, I am sitting there, and I sat at my couch and I did nothing. I was like this.
I love
I
it.
was I was frustrated. I was pissed off. I was pissed off that I was pissed off. But then I was like, I can do this. Now here's the thing, is by having the calendar, it allows for freedom is me controlling my calendar. What do I want to do, and being able to have project time in my calendar, so that's my flex time. If something happens and I need to move that block of time to somewhere else, like the freedom is in allowing me to control, so that I'm prepared to manage the things that I can't control.
I love it. I love it. And you know, what I'd love to add to that, because we're very much aligned, is that I think freedom is choice
Hmm.
as an entrepreneur. And one of the things I've learned is stuff always keeps coming. I was speaking to one of my friends, and I was saying, "Yeah, just when I thought I got it all handled, it all changed.
Right.
I'm handling it again," right?
Hmm.
So it's always coming. So freedom is boundaries, and
Right.
it's learning to put boundaries on, my work and on my play.
Hmm.
And so I know for myself, I'm big on I do have a schedule. My business does shut down. I do have days, I do take days off, a day off once a week. I also take time off and I travel. And for me, it's the harmony between being able to do the things that make my heart sing, which is
Hmm.
why I'm in business truly, as well as doing the stuff that I love, which is why I'm in business truly, and not allowing each to bleed into the other, and
Right.
not staying too long in either space. So I'm at my best for those I serve when I'm fresh, rejuvenated, and rested.
Hmm.
And the only way I can do that is when I step away from my business. And it doesn't mean things are done. It doesn't mean things are complete. It just means I step away
Right.
and I fill my own cup up by doing the things I love. What I've also realized is whenever I step away and I do the things I love, I come back so full and so excited about what I just did. It inspires me to do more, be more, become more,
Hmm.
because I want more of that freedom thing I created for myself. And
Yes.
so it really is this dance that can only live when I have the mastery to have boundaries
Hmm.
on my time. And we're talking about clutter, and you can clutter your time
Hmm.
with too much work or too much pleasure, right? So
Right.
boundaries on my time, boundaries on what I put in my schedule, so how much by when, boundaries around who I serve and how much I serve, because I love to serve, but there's a time where I'm serving and my cup is empty. So boundaries on how I serve. And then I find my place that feels like freedom. And I
Right.
think to answer Julie's question, it will never stop until we choose to stop it,
Hmm.
because
You
the work's never done.
you said the word finding the harmony. A lot of we hear people teach at times of balance. It's about
Yeah.
balancing work-life balance, and the thing about balancing is one requires friction on the other. When
Mhm.
you're trying to balance, they're in competition against each other. When you think of a scale and the weight and creating balance, you have to add more weight onto one in order to raise another. And in life, that's not the way life works.
That's
Um,
nothing equal.
right. And so there's harmony. There's finding harmonies in the highs and finding harmonies in the lows,
Mhm.
and being okay. And that's where the freedom comes in, where you're like, wow, this didn't go as well as I thought it was, or as I had planned it was, but I was able to dot dot dot, or hmm, this is not going to work out. This contract that I have, for example, I had a contract that we've been planning for 2022, and recently we found out that some of their financing on their end wasn't going to come through as planned, which they were like, Matt, we can't do these events that we wanted to. And I was like, okay, great. What can we do? The
Mhm.
harmony in previous me could have panicked, because that's a real big chunk. That's a nice contract that financially and fiscally is going to carry my business for a while. But without that, now I have to say, okay, what is possible, and how do we still achieve your goals and what you want to do? And let's find the harmony in the situation right now, instead of let's
Mm.
find, like, let's be creative. Let's find out what's going on, what's possible. And I think that the junk in the trunk, as Mr. Decker, Ken Decker said, finding the junk in the trunk, or even the junk in your space, is a flag. It's a your body, your mind, your spirit, your guides, whoever you, God calling you and saying, hey. And I always say, wherever there's a flag, there's usually a parade right behind it.
I love it. I love
And
it.
if you miss that flag, you're going to see the rest of the parade. So when that flag shows up, it's a time to sit back and ask yourself, what is it that I'm avoiding? What is
Mhm.
it that I'm not doing? What is it that I'm not seeing? What is it that I'm not saying?
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
um, and it's really that flag to just say, listen, we need to stop for a minute and take a break, and
Mhm.
and really evaluate, where are we right now?
You know, one of the things that you also said was when the contract got twisted and it wasn't what you expected, you know, when we talk about junk in the trunk, there's emotional junk as well. There's emotional
Hmm.
clutter, there's emotional stuff. And oftentimes it is the emotion that floods us. So it might be a frustration, maybe anger, maybe panic. And if we don't clear that out of the trunk, if you will, if we don't empty it out, new emotions can't come in.
Hmm.
And so oftentimes what people do is that emotion comes flooding in, and rather than stop and deal with it, they push it down versus allow it to come up, feel, emote, and dissipate and empty the
Exactly.
trunk. Because until you emptied the trunk, I imagine, of that emotion, what would happen was you wouldn't be able to readjust and say, well, what else can we do? Because your
Hmm.
mind would be so cluttered with that emotion, even if you're pushing it down and pretending isn't there, that you wouldn't be able to adjust.
Right.
And so, you know, when we're talking about the metaphor of the trunk, and the clutter, it really is around how effective are we at moving out what's not needed and putting things that are needed in our world in its right places to and at its right time.
And accessing the tools that we have. I know from in the community that I come from and that I serve, and I'm sure your community as well, and those that know you, we're teaching and we're giving tools, and we're learning tools of how do
Yeah.
you manage emotions, how do you have deeper conversations, how do you do all of this. And we have all of these tools that are all just thrown in this trunk. And when we need to resource them and we need to get them, we're digging through everything to try to find them, that we're like, God, I know I learned how to deal with this. God, I remember, I know Suzanne taught me how to go through and how to change my mindset when this comes. Where is that tool? And we're digging for it versus having it in its right place where we can go directly to it and just say, I'm having
Mhm.
this emotion. I need to deal with this. This is the tool. This is the practice that I can move through it.
I love it. I love it. This is such a good conversation. Um, I'm going to give last words to you. So, if someone is having a challenging time managing their emotions, I know one of the comments I giggled at, Stacy Durich said, "Oh, so I'm human, not a unicorn." She's listening to this conversation. I love it. I love it. Yes, you are human, and that
Mhm.
this is the ride that we signed up for. When if someone's finding themselves on
Mhm.
this emotional roller coaster, what are 2 to 3 things, 2 to 3 tips that you can leave them with? So they're like Matt said,
Mhm. So I'm going to say the first one is going to sound almost oh, silly, but breathe.
yes,
Breathe.
always,
Breathe.
always.
take a minute and give yourself the space to breathe. I know that for myself, I find when I get into a state of chaos or a state of things aren't going right as I had planned, I get, and that anxiety, that anxiousness comes up. I begin to, the voice of my negative self talk
Mhm.
sounds like the volume gets turned up.
Yeah.
Oh, here you are again. Oh, see, you should have done dot dot dot, or why are you trying to do this, or remember, like all of the things that didn't work or that
Yeah.
were all of it, like the volume like gets turned up. And so breathing just allows for the moment to like, okay, I hear you, but I know you're not real. Like you're not the truth. The truth of that negative chatter is not true, but it shows, like, I love the fact that we try to get rid of our negative self-talk. And the truth is it never goes anywhere. Like we can't, but what we can do is we can learn how to manage it. For me, it's pressing pause on the negative, pressing pause on that on whatever that negative chatter is, and then telling myself and pressing play on a powerful conversation. So the I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, here you screwed up turns into you were specifically designed for this particular mission. All of the gifts and the talents that you need are already inside of you. There are
Mhm.
people that want to support you and love you. And that becomes my powerful self-talk of, whew, okay, let me just sit in this moment for a minute. Let me just breathe. Let me just allow myself to reground and get centered.
Yeah.
And then I say, what is true? What do I know to be true in this moment? One, I have a beautiful home over my head. I'm creating the financial freedom for myself and for my family and for the people that I want to share that wealth with. I know that the truth of my life is that I get to show up and impact people so that they
Mhm.
can live a life that they love and that they deserve. Like it's their birthright to be happy and to be successful. And I get to play a part of that. So it's regrounding myself to what I know to be true. The other thing is this pad, you will always, if you see me, I always have some type of paper. I'm old school in the sense of whenever I feel like I have a lot of thoughts in my head, I do a lot of free writing. And
Mhm.
I'll start with one word. I'll start with the word, let's just say junk. And then I branch off and I'll write trash. And then I'll write feelings. And I begin to just go through before I like my paper will be full of all of the just random things that are here
Mhm.
that now I've taken and I put onto paper and I've given the space up in here, all of those chaotic thoughts. So I am writing down, journaling, is another way. I free write with just the words or sentences.
Mhm.
I also write notes to myself often. I send them to my mom and I tell my mom, I ask her, I say, Mom, can you mail these to me in 6 months or something? And I put a little sticky note on there and I send her candy as well. So, but something so that it comes back. Um, I get a note to myself. And if it's not my mom, it'll be a friend or somebody that I can remind myself of my greatness, of remind myself of what I have, because we are human.
Mhm.
As much as we are unicorns,
Yeah.
we are also human. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And this
Mhm.
human experience doesn't always make sense. And that's to me, and when you think of on a spiritual level, the struggle is, earth and human experience wants me to do this, but my spirit feels this.
Yeah.
And so it's this battle between the spirit and the humanity. And so I have to get connected with my heart. I will always 100% trust my heart before my head.
Absolutely. That's the bigger mind.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
I know that God operates through my heart. The enemy can control this. He can go through and embed ideas and thoughts, but he can't touch my heart.
I love it. I love it. I
He
love
can't
it.
touch my heart. How about for you?
For me, it is my first one is always breathe,
Hmm.
because I know that when I'm in an overwhelm, I'm either not breathing or I'm breathing really shallow. And just breathing, taking the moment to breathing always settles me.
Mm-hmm.
I think the second thing I do, like you, is I pay attention to the conversation that's running me.
Mm-hmm.
And it is actually, I actually talk to her and I'll go, there you are. I
Mm-hmm.
know you. And you showed up because you're afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You showed up because we're afraid. And I'll say, we got this. We got this. And then I journal. I journal to God.
Mm-hmm.
That's who I journal to.
I
And
love it.
and he always answers, which is very interesting. And just the act of journaling and getting my fears, my thoughts out of me, in the middle of it, the ideas start to flow. The things that need to happen start to flow. And then for me, the next step is organize my thoughts, organize my space, organize my environment, and then build a plan.
Yeah.
And it's not a big plan. Sometimes it's the next 3 steps. How am I going to get started on this? And just that is able to ground me and settle me. I also I have a recording of my vision for my life.
Mm.
And so whenever I can't talk positive, I just play my recording, put on my headsets, and I listen to my own voice tell me how magnificent my life is
Mm-hmm.
and how magnificent it is in the process of becoming. And that just sets me, because it's like, oh yeah,
Love that.
oh yeah, okay, okay. And I re-record my vision every single year.
Mm-hmm.
Usually before December 31st, I got to get it re-recorded. I write it out, I record it, and I keep it on. It's on my phone. So whenever I need to access this, put on those headphones, and I got my vision.
I love that. I love it. And I love that it's your own voice,
Mm,
because there's power in hearing your voice say something. There's one thing of the process of thinking the thought, writing the thought down, and then speaking the thought. All of those different steps. So one, creating in your mind, and then, going through and putting in recording and then playing it back. Like, I'm actually going to take that, and I think I'm going to do that as I create my space for next year. I see Julie says she's going to do that as well. Patricia says, yes, I'm going to be using all these tips. That's beautiful. I love that idea.
yeah. It has been just such a joy hanging out with you and having a conversation. And I gotta say, Matt's been ripping and running. Like he hadn't been in one space for a long time. I remember telling Tria, as soon as Matt stops moving and we find him in one spot, we are going to do an interview. So this is going to be my request. When you get your schedule for 2022, slot us in,
Yes.
send me the date, and we're going to make another interview happen.
I love it. I love it. I would be honored to. Thank you so much for what you do and how you impact people's lives. Like, I watch your. I don't always get to catch it live when it's happening, but I always watch the replay. And your heart. You lead with your heart. You
Yeah.
lead with your spirit and how God is using you and directs you. And um, on behalf of all of the people that may never get the chance to say thank you, I want to say thank you.
Thank you so much. I am totally receiving that. And I will say to you, you see me because it's a reflection, right?
Yes.
It's absolutely a reflection. And
Amen.
that was what I saw when we first met. So thank
Amen.
you.
And we got some great things to get done
Yes,
together.
that's right. That's right. We're just getting started. So, for everyone watching, you have been listening to Unstoppable Mindset. I have been sitting down with Mr. Matt Gill, someone I've been wanting to sit down with for quite some time now. So, he's promised he'll be back in 2022. So, stay tuned. Continue to comment, leave any questions that didn't get answered in the comment section. We'll make sure and check it out and respond. We will be back here next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If for some reason you are new and you are not a member of our Unstoppable Mindset for Super Achievers community, knock on the door, say you want to come hang out. We will definitely let you in. Feel free to follow us on all our social media platforms. You can find us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and of course here on Facebook. And as we close, this is what I want to remind you, and this is so timely given this conversation. Know that you're unique, and know that you're oh so very special, and that the world is waiting for you to put your gift into the marketplace. Blessings. We will see you back here next week. Thank you and take care.